Hello and welcome to REIKI Conciliation. I'm grateful that I can introduce myself, answer a few questions such as who I am, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. That's the kind of questions I received when I spoke to over 100 people about the video we are soon to release. Soon, in a few days, it's January. As you can see, we are in Switzerland. And before I start with these questions, I'd like to read to you a definition of conciliation, which I quite like. To overcome distrust or animosity, to gain goodwill, to attempt to make compatible. So conciliation is not about same. If anything, it's about honoring our differences. The English say to agree to disagree. So the first question I received was, who are you and why are you the right person to involve yourself? That's a good question. First of all, I don't know whether I'm the right person. But in the course of my life, I seem to have developed a particular inkling towards the topic of conciliation. I've been involved in the REIKI community for over 25 years, and when I started to work on this project and spoke to many people, it was amazing how often I heard the same statement. Many people said, "Gosh, I never said this to anybody." And that very much reassured me that I was on the right path to do this work. I believe that denying that there were dissonances would be feeding them. And I believe that if we don't reconcile, then the dissonance lingers longer. And I think also that it is a great opportunity to attempt reconciliation while people are still around, while they're still alive. The purpose of conciliation will be so that we create a coexistence which allows us maybe a cooperation and a togetherness which otherwise we would not be able to do. Yes, there is a danger in opening old wounds, in re-emphasizing polarities which have existed, but I also believe that sometimes we have to take a risk, and also I believe this is the time now. The process of digression, of acknowledging it on both sides of the coin, of apologizing, of asking and accepting amends, in a word, the process of forgiving is one which has been very central in my life, personal life, and later as a businessman, and certainly as a REIKI teacher in understanding what individual healing includes. Other than that, I think it's time to go inside. It's cold. So one of the questions was, why is reconciliation between REIKI styles and the leading lights necessary, and why now? So the original problem in the 1980s revolved around the question of Avayatthaka's succession. As a result, the REIKI community was polarized, one could say, into two parties. Somewhere in between those two parties, in this tension field, there was the REIKI network, which was the school of thought that I grew up with. The REIKI network was a rather introspective organization, and things started to change in the 2000 years. So in 2010, my wife and I left the organization, and we kind of opened ourselves to the big, wide REIKI world. In fact, it was a bit of a discovery. I remember in 2010, I went to the REIKI convention in Germany, and I drove up to the main gate of the compound, and I looked inside, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet all these shamanistic, voodoo kind of REIKI people. And indeed, of course, when I stopped and looked inside, I saw somebody who fitted into that preconceived opinion of mine perfectly. Of course, I didn't turn around, although I was tempted. And when I started to meet these people, I discovered that there were humans like me and everybody I knew in the Reiki scenes. They had their own opinions, they had their own approach and understanding of Reiki, which might have differed. But basically, this story is showing how many preconceived opinions I carried as I went into this situation. Those years were formative for organizations like Pro Reiki in Germany, an association which invites people from all Reiki styles to the table, or under their roof, as they call it, and my organization, Reiki International, which uses the picture of a harbor, which invites ships from every direction to meet and to share information. In the years leading up to 2014-15, the progress was quite phenomenal. There were a lot of publications, theses coming out, which were no longer polarized or one-sided. They were showing a more all-encompassing picture. So the zeitgeist seemed to be right to undergo the work I was doing. In the process, of course, I encountered that there was still a lot of dissonance around. There were still a lot of people who carried old pain, and one needed to be careful to not reopen old wounds. Another question was, why did you choose Phyllis Emoto as your first interview partner? Well, Phyllis obviously was the granddaughter of Hayao Takata, and in the 80s she was very involved in this question of Takata's succession. Later in the 90s, she created some controversy in the Reiki community when she attempted to trademark Reiki. In 2014, she gave this acceptance speech for her honorary membership, which Pro Reiki awarded to her. And through the liaison of a student of mine, Dr. David Bolius from Vienna, who happened to be present, I was introduced to Phyllis. It was a great opportunity to interview one of the central characters in the unfolding of the modern history of Reiki. Finding her ready to answer controversial questions, critical questions, was another signal for me that the time was right to go about this particular work. So the last question, why are there 66 videos and why should I buy them? First of all, there is the main feature, Reconciliation Along the Path of Mastery, which is freely available. In the making, one has to know that it was the first time for me to be in a role of a journalist. And getting to know Phyllis and being curious about a lot of things, I asked many questions which were open-ended. Phyllis' style to answer questions is also a rather broad style. She inserts a lot of side stories for illustration. So that means that at the end of the filming, we had 15 hours worth of footage, which needed to be edited for the main feature. But it was apparent that there were many statements which deserved to be conserved for future references, because they had historic insights, they spoke about the future of Reiki, which I believe needed to be put in what I called a video archive. It happened to be 66 snippets, and therefore it became 66 videos. For sure, the 66 videos contain a lot of important information in connection with reconciliation in the Reiki world. I do believe that this material is interesting and of relevance for people in other fields of activity which equally have had moments of disparities, of dissonance in their development. So that's the one side why the 66 videos exist. I believe that this material is valuable also for the training of Reiki people in future generations. Our main feature, Reconciliation Along the Path of Mastery, is the edited version of everything Phyllis said in the 66 videos. So you should buy the 66 videos to get the possibility to make your own picture. For that purpose, we paid a lot of attention to allow you search functions on our homepage so that you can find answers to your own question. With the money I earn from the sales of these videos, I recuperate the expense we have occurred for the production of the website and of the videos. Talking of money, of course, I would like you to become a sponsor or make donations on our homepage so that we can finance new projects with that for future documentary interviews, which I'm planning to do. You can see the main feature, Reconciliation Along the Path of Mastery, thanks to the generosity of our sponsors. You can see their names at the end of the movie in the credentials. I would like to thank here also in particular Phyllis Emoto, who has been most patient and gracious that we were able and allowed to use all the material we had filmed with her in Berlin and in Arizona. Thank you very much, Phyllis. I'd like to thank all the people all over the world who have contributed with their concerns, with their questions, with many hours of conversations, many emails which have gone back and forth. Last but not least, I would like to thank my team. Without their help, this would not have been possible. Thank you very much to everybody, and thank you for watching.